What's up, y'all? Let's do a breakdown for UFC 329. Conor McGregor versus Max Holloway 2, or I don't know how they're promoting it, but I'm going to put Max's name first because Conor hasn't been a legit fighter for like 5 years. But yeah, Holloway versus McGregor 2. Um, Good card. Definitely a lot of close matchups on here. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, like, I do not feel comfortable with a lot of my picks on here, but I also did not do any research yet. And like, look, I know all these fighters on the card pretty much, but and MMA, like, I don't like to jump in too much and watch a bunch of these fights and then just be like, oh man, well, look what this guy did against this guy. Look what this guy did against this guy. A lot of times in MMA, it's all about who implements their style. It's very rare that you get two guys that they might be average or equal to each other on skill wise overall. One of them is like a specialist in one part and the other one is a specialist on another part. It's all about who implements that game plan. Like, I bet a lot of boxing. Usually the cream rises to the top in boxing. It is not always that way in MMA. And it's not a shot at MMA. It's because there's so many different paths to victory in MMA. It's a tough sport to bet. So I don't like, firing a lot of money on MMA guys. Except when you got a lock out there like Ilya Taporia over Justin Gagey, you just got to fire a shitload of money on it like I did a couple of weeks ago. I mean, that's just free money. You got to take those when they come. So, fights like that, I'll load up on guys like Hamzat Chimaev for Sean Strickland. That was a good one to load up on. I've learned my lesson. Like, I try to load up on guys that I think are special. Now, I did do that throughout Khabib's entire career. I bet him every single fight in the UFC. I've done the same thing with Islam Makhachev. Like, there's a lot of guys that I have bet that you're like, yeah, until this guy loses, I'm not picking against him. But I got screwed on that fucking Taporia and Chimaev. That pretty bad too. But that's why I don't do it. I was very confident in both of those fights. And Sean Strickland's one of my favorite fighters of all time in the UFC. I used to love him when he was Tarzan, saying he's going to be the next champ. Back in the day before he had that motorcycle accident when nobody knew who the fuck he was. But yeah, shit just happens. So, like, you know, don't take my advice too much, but hey, I do know my shit about MMA, and I'll give you what I think. And if you're one of those people who just likes to watch all the YouTube breakdowns you can, and then you kind of just like add up in your head afterwards, you'd be like, well, this guy said this, and then this guy said this, and then this guy, and then you know what? Four people said the same thing, and I only watched six videos, so I'm gonna go with the four guys instead. I understand a lot of people do that. So if this is one of your videos, thank you for watching. But I'm just going to put a disclaimer out there right now. Like, I do not know as much about MMA as a lot of these guys on here. Like, and I'm using this to give a shout out to a kid that I've been watching that's been making me a lot of money over the past year and a half. And his page is MMALOTN, MMA Lock of the Night. I don't know what his name is, but like, this guy knows his shit. So, I'm assuming if you're scrambling along on my page, you've probably seen his. Go watch his. Like, he will give you X's and O's and stuff like that. He will give you like, oh, I remember watching this guy in the regional scene and some weird organization in Brazil or something like that. And that guy knows his stuff. So, if you're gonna watch a lot of these YouTubers make their picks, make sure you go across to his page. But yeah, these are going to be my picks. I'm going to start from the bottom up. I'll try not to spend as much time because, like I said, I do suffer from a lot of mental illness, and sometimes I tend to go on rants and stuff like that. But I'll try to put timestamps down and just go through this as quickly as possible. First fight we got on here, we got Cody Durden versus Alessandro Costa. This is a pretty easy one for me. I've just been using Cody Durden as a straight up fade. Yeah, sometimes he comes through with those underdog wins, and yeah, when you win on him, you win a lot of money because he's usually a pretty decent underdog. But the guy, he's one of those guys, like, I just don't like these guys in the UFC, and I'll compare him to the guy that Costa just lost to, or just beat Matt Schnell. Matt Schnell, Matt Schnell and Cody Durden are pretty much like the same fighter for me. I don't like betting either one of them. Like, the guys will, they fight for your money. They're very tough. They're just like, I don't see them as like above average at almost anything that they do. They're really good. They're tough guys. They'll be in wars with the right fighter, and stuff like that. But against a guy like Costa, like, I just think Costa's gonna run through this guy and knock him out. I mean, I don't see, like, I'm a path to victory guy too. Like, Cody Durden's paths to victory are like, betting a fucking Gerald Meerschaert fight. It's a Hail Mary submission or maybe a lucky punch or something like that. But or like a grind out 3 rounds. But that's only against, it depends on who his opposition is. He ain't gonna be able to grind out around here. If he beats Costa, it's gonna be because maybe he somehow got him against the cage, got around to his back. He's a very good grappler, but he's not a good wrestler. And I don't think he's gonna be able to get this fight to the ground. And I think he's just gonna get picked off on his feet until he takes that one shot, does the stanky leg, and then just gets knocked out. That's just how I see this fight going. And then, like, I respect Cody Durden as a fighter. I think he should be a UFC fighter, but I think he gets knocked out here. And I honestly think he leaves the gloves in the rings after this match, and it's a good career for a guy like him. I mean, the guy, I know he's a guy that trains hard. It's just like one of those guys that, like, don't think the natural talent there, the natural athletic ability, and is there. And I'm not trying to shit on the guy, but, like, this is a sport where I gamble on. Like, I can't sit there and be like, "No, well, I like him. He's a hardworking, respectable, blue collar individual guy." No, give me the guy with fucking loads of talent who I just think's gonna win. So give me Costa. I'm gonna say Costa by knockout in the first or second round. I'll go round 2 KO for Cody, or for Alexander Costa. Next fight's a tough one for me to pick because I don't know anything about this Brazilian. Ryan Gandra versus Zach Reese. I know Gandra's off the Contender Series. I did watch his fights in the Contender Series and the his first UFC fight, and they were both very early knockouts, I believe. And this is another reason. Go check out my boy MMA Lock of the Nights page. But he'll know a lot more about this guy. But I do know about Zach Reese, and Zach Reese is he's a big dude for that weight class. I think he's 6'4", and he's just like blockied up kind of muscular guy and everything like that. But I'm assuming that if this Brazilian is kind of running through knocking guys out and shit like that, um, I think that's his path to victory here. And Zach Reese is a very hittable guy. The thing I worry about here, and I know these odds are very close, but the thing I worry about here is this thing starts getting past the first like 2 minutes in the second round. Zach Reese, even though Zach Reese might have a little bit of a gas tank problem, I think that's one thing I remember about him. But he's more experienced at a higher level. And I'm worried Zach Reese makes this an ugly fight or somehow finds a way to get this fight to the ground and just annoys the shit out of the young up and comer who's, he's got a lot of momentum and stuff like that. But I don't like guys that have a lot of momentum because they have a lot of early round knockouts. I usually do not like those guys because you don't learn much in a 29-second knockout, a 41-second knockout, or something like that. You don't learn anything from it. So, and you're gonna need those fights later on in your career. You're gonna need a fight where even if um, you don't really get much pushback from your opponent, you need to know that you can carry your body 3 rounds and shit like that, because that's what I worry about this fight. I worry about this young kid winning the first round, not being able to get the knockout, might hurt him or something like that. Then round 2 just kind of slows down, and then somehow Zach Reese just makes this into an ugly fight, swings the second round a little bit, and could get a decision. I'm worried about that a little bit, but I just don't like Zach Reese enough. I don't trust that he's a very tall fighter. I think he leaves his chin up in the air a lot. And the one thing I can see by this guy's record is he's a knockout artist. I think he's going to find Zach Reese's chin, and I'm going to say he knocks him out in first or second round. But I'm going to say second round knockout for Ryan Gandera. Next fight, we got Basharat versus John Garza. I don't know anything about this John Garza guy. I know he's taking the fight on like what 4 days notice or something like that. And Farad Basharat, on the other hand, is an absolute stud. So I know his brother was in the UFC. I think his brother, I forgot who his brother lost to, and to be honest, Basharat, I think I thought I heard something about him maybe not being in the UFC anymore. His other brother, but there was high hopes for both of those guys coming in the UFC. And but this Basharat's a stud. Like I said, don't know much about this Garza guy, but the thing I don't like about fighters taking fights on really short notice like this is a lot of that time in those 4 days. I don't care how in shape you aren't at like weight cutting shape, unless Garza fights at a different weight division and they're just bringing him up a weight division, so he doesn't really have to worry about the weight cut. But assuming he's having to cut weight for those 4 days, that's really all you're concentrating on. Then all of a sudden you get in the ring and you're like, I don't know shit about this guy. Like, look, man, I'm just here to fight. And I think the best case for Garza is a fight like remember when Tony Ferguson fought, I believe it was Lando Venata, and Venata didn't win that fight, but he put up a graceful performance and actually had a decent career in the UFC. That's probably the best case scenario for a guy like this. The UFC will reward him. I no matter what, I think like you take a fight on 4 days notice, even if you lose and look like shit, I think they'll give him another fight on like an Apex card or something like that to try to prove himself. But bottom line is like I don't pick a lot of underdogs. I'm not going to pick one here. Farad Basharat by first round knockout. Let's go. This next fight is probably the hardest fight on the card for me to pick. It's this Damian Panas guy versus Cesar Almeida. I love Cesar Almeida. He's one of the fighting nerds guys, and I just remember when those fighting nerds guys were, they were walking around as the untouchables and stuff like that, and there was a lot of people saying Cesar Almeida is the guy. And but I've actually bet his whole career. I've won in every single one of his fights, even his two losses. I did bet against him there. But the one thing is this Pinas guy is I've watched his two fights that he had. I think he had a Contender Series fight and one UFC fight. I think he got 2 early knockouts. I believe he trains out of Novo Inhao with the Jose Aldo's camp out there in Brazil. And they're a very good striking team. And this guy's got very, very, very good striking. And I say that as a boxing fan, like I appreciate he has very straight punches. He has a good jab, stuff like that. Like Almeida is more of a karate style, but I'm just gonna say it right now, like I like I think Almeida's stand up is better than this guy's. And I think Almeida with his footwork, I just think it's worth taking a shot on him here. And I'm not usually a value better, but when I say take a shot on him here, I'm saying if this was a minus 110 against minus 110 odds, I'd still take Almeida. I lean towards him ever so slightly. Um, just because of his experience at the high level. Yes, Panas has been running through people. Don't think he's going to be able to run through a guy like Almeida. Like, I don't think he's going to be able to have that, leg up and striking like he always does. I think this is going to be dead even. If not, I think Almeida has the overall better striking than this guy. And I'm going to say Almeida wins this on points. I think he uses a karate style footwork and stays away from this guy, stays away from his power punches. And I think he outpoints this guy. It might be a controversial decision, a split decision, or something like that, but my money's going to be on Almeida. I really think Almeida pulls off the upset here and puts himself back on track because he's got those two losses in the UFC, and that's not good for a guy that they when they man when UFC loves a guy like that, but you're not like necessarily very promotable. They don't tend to give you too many more chances. But, so this is kind of almost a must win for Almeida, or he's gonna fall into that, Stephen Thompson category where it's like, yeah, we hyped you up and then you lost and then you get and like he might fall into that where then you just end up like, all right, we're just gonna make you fight nothing but tough fights. And if you lose, two in a row, we're just gonna fucking cut you. I worry about that with Almeida, but I think he's going to show up for this fight, and I think he's going to win by decision. Like I said, don't tail too many of my bets, but these are going to be the money. These are going to be what I'm going to be putting my money on. So yeah, give me Cesar Almeida there. Another very tough fight to pick: Tracy Cortez against Kong Wong. Don't know much about Kong Wong. I know I've seen at least one of her fights, but this is more of like I don't need to do much research on Wong. This fight is all about, and this is how I do all of Tracy Cortez's fights, and I do very well betting Cortez. Um, when I think Cortez is going to show up and just implement her wrestling, I don't think there's too many girls on the planet that could beat her at that weight class. The problem is she doesn't do that too much. Like she likes to stand up and strike. She's one of those straight up wrestlers that takes all these, boxing classes to get better at boxing and stuff like that and says, man, I'm really good at this. I'm good at this. Yeah, you're good for training for like 7 or 8 months. You're not good as these guys who've been training their whole life for it. So when you're going up against a striker, quit trying to prove yourself as a damn boxer and just go take the girl down. Like boxing is very useful to wrestlers because it helps you close distance to get in to use your takedowns. That's what you should be using your boxing for. Or like a Tyron Woodley who just throws a giant overhand right and dives in for a takedown. That overhand right is usually not meant to land, or if it does fucking clock the guy and knock him out. But it's usually just a close distance. If you throw a giant right hand on the guy can't really just counter you right there. He has to cover up. So what does he do when he covers up? He puts his hands up here, and then by the time you do that, Woodley's hand is already around your fucking waist, and you're getting taken down. That's what Tracy Cortez needs to do in this fight. And I'm betting Tracy Cortez in this fight because I read an article about her the other day, and she pretty much said, I'm not fucking around anymore. And I think what she's talking about is exactly what I was talking about. Like, I was trying to work on my boxing. I was trying to do that. I was trying to do that. Like, do that. Dance with the girl who brought you there. Use your wrestling. I don't know much about Wong, but I'm assuming her wrestling ain't as good as Tracy Cortez. And I'm gonna take Tracy Cortez here, and I think she wins a 2-1, 3-0 decision. I think she gets a takedown in every round, and especially if she gets one in the first round, this might be a good fight. If she gets a takedown in the first round, I might live bet and put a shitload of money on her because if she can get that first takedown in the first round, I think it's going to be a long night for Wong, and it's just going to be a kind of a boring, 30-27 decision. But Tracy Cortez, like, you fucked around too much in this sport, and now it's time to just win. I like fighters that want to just win. They don't give a shit about entertaining the crowd or building their popularity or anything. If you just keep winning, you will eventually earn your shot. So, unless you're a guy like Movsar Evloev. I could name a few like Askar Asarov, you know. But yeah, just give me Tracy Cortez by decision here. That's another one. If you like to take fights to go the distance, bet every single women's fight to go the distance, and I guarantee you'll come up with money. I know it doesn't happen all the time or whatever, but like, dude, that's just a thing. Like I've been doing it for years, and I don't like to take like a paths to victory type thing. I just like to take who I think's going to win the fight. But sometimes in women's fights, like I don't like doing that. So in the women's fights, I'll just fire the over and put it on a parlay. This might be a decent fight to do that. And but other than that, Cortez. Uh, Another fight on here. It's Kai Kamaka versus Luke Riley. Luke Riley is an up and comer from the UK. I believe he trains out of Manchester Top Team, and so he's got a good gym. He's undefeated. He's, I think, 8 years younger than Kamaka. This is one of these fights where usually, like, you could just take the names off. If you gave me that information, I would just take the younger fighter. But man, Kai Kamaka, I love watching the guy. He's a very good boxer. He's got very good boxing skills, and he likes to stay in the pocket and bang. Problem with him is I think he's a little heavy on his feet. Um, I forget about freaking Luke Riley. I know I've seen some of his fights, but I think he has a little bit of a ground game that he could implement here. Because if you stand up with Kai Kamaka, like you do take a risk. This guy has really fast hands, and you can tell by looking at him or his last name Kamaka, he's from Hawaii. And what do Hawaiians know how to do? Every single one of them, their background is boxing and wrestling. Every single one of them. Like it's more boxing that they do over there, but they also have a very, very heavy wrestling base over there as well. So, but this is one where like I'm not gonna fall in love with what I like personally about Kai Kamaka because I don't take that into betting his fights, and I usually do pretty well because the guy's just like he just can't put it together. There's something about him. Every time I watch his fights, I'm like, man, the skills are there. The skills are there. And then you're sitting there watching the fight, and he loses another decision, and it's just like so. I'm betting on these fights. I'm not hoping this guy puts on a good performance. I need you to win these fights. And he just doesn't tend to do it. So I'm not going to pick him here against a young up and comer like this, Luke Riley, who also I think he's 13-0. He doesn't know how to lose. Like give me the young gun here. They're setting this guy up to win the fight. And man, I keep forgetting it is International Fight Week. So maybe they're trying to showcase Luke Riley. But yeah, next fight we got coming up. Uh Cody Garbrandt versus Adrian Yanez. Fun fight, very fun fight in the case that sorry, but very fun fight in the case that these guys are both strikers. They both have very good boxing, and Garbrandt's seen as one of the better strikers in the history of that division. But I think Adrian Yanez's striking's better. And I think Adrian Yanez's punches are more straight. And I think he's got better in boxing. We have well, I guess I can follow it over to UFC too. But we always say like timing beats speed. Cody Garbrandt has a lot of speed on his punches, but Cody Garbrandt's IQ and his chin are just both shot. He's not the smartest fighter in there anymore. Look, man, the guy tries. I don't like betting against him, but I end up betting against him a lot just because that freaking Dominic Cruz fight always pops into my head. And then I'll sit there and tell myself, yeah, dude, that was 10 years ago. Guess what? He hasn't been able to replicate that after, and shit like that. So, I love watching Cody Garbrandt. Like sometimes I get a itch to throw a little bit on him when he's a big underdog, but I don't end up doing it, and it usually works out for me. This is a fight where I think Cody Garbrandt gets chinned. Um, this is a fight where I mean, I think Yanez comes out, wins the first round, and Garbrandt just runs around and gets really confused and then just says, my only chance is to step into the pocket and trade with this guy. I haven't looked at the dimensions, but I'm assuming Yanez has a longer reach than Garbrandt. And Garbrandt's going to get into a position where he thinks he's in range to just sit in the pocket and throw his hooks and shit. And he's going to get caught with a straight punch. And it's going to hurt him. And he's either going to get grounded, pounded, or knocked out. And that's what I see happening in this fight, and I think it happens in the second round. Give me Adrian Yanez by second round knockout. Next fight, I'm assuming everybody has their pick for this fight. Gable Stevenson versus Elisha Ellison. I've seen Ellison fight a couple of times. Like, he ain't that good. This is definitely a showcase for Gable Stevenson. Guy's making his UFC debut. Everybody is predicting this guy to take over the heavyweight division. Now, I don't know if now or in a year or two, if Tom Aspinall gets back to fighting and he's still at his top level, I don't know if I take, Stevenson against him, but within a year or two with this guy, I think he's going to be able to beat everybody in the division besides Tom Aspinall or Cyril Gahn. But because the one thing I like about this guy is I love wrestlers. I just in all of UFC, I think that's by far, and I'm a big boxing fan. The best base by far in the UFC is wrestling, and I'm gonna include combat sambo into wrestling. But that type of like dominant ground game, that's what that's what you need. That's what like most great fighters have is they got that wrestling. Most dominant fighters, like they just got that wrestling. They just implement that. It's a lot easier for a wrestler to implement his wrestling game plan than it is for Stephen Thompson, who has to dance around with his karate style. And he was one of my favorites. Michael Venom Page is another one. Like, they do a very good job at it, but they have to work very hard and they got to stay perfect for like the entire fight because if they fuck up, early in the fight or something like that, or midway through the fight and they get taken down, they're a fish out of water on their back, man. And I think that those stand-up fighters are worse on the ground than these wrestlers are on their feet. So wrestlers, just because they're wrestlers, doesn't mean that they can't crack and they can knock people out. Plus, when you're a wrestler, your striking goes up. You ain't got to be a good striker. Your striking's going to go up because the other opponent is worried about your takedowns. How many good strikers did we see Tyron Woodley knock out? News for you guys, Tyron Woodley ain't that good of a boxer. Did you guys see the two Jake Paul fights? He's not that good of a boxer. But this is a different sport. And when the frickin' karate guy has to have his hands down here, on across his hips and shit like that because he's worried as shit about takedowns, it takes away from his striking. Um, so a guy like Gable Stevenson, I just think he's going to run across the ring. He's going to throw an over. I don't know if he's southpaw or whatever, but he's going to throw an overhand right or whatever the hell it is. It's going to miss. He's going to grab a single leg and put this dude up over his shoulder and slam him and get a ground and pound in like a minute and a half. That's how I see this fight going. Um, I have him at a bunch of parlays at minus 2,000. He's all the way up to like minus 4,000, I believe, on some websites. But you still take them. You throw them on parlays. But if you're not one of those type of people and you're looking for a value play, Abel Stevenson by knockout in the first round is 140. I got a buddy in Vegas who bets a lot of those, and that's a fight I would recommend him to take right there. Just yeah, like don't be that guy and just be like, oh my god, plus 750 in an MMA fight or whatever the hell Ellison's gonna be. Don't do it, guys. Just bet Gable Stevenson and ride this Gable Stevenson train. And like, because as he steps up in competition, like his odds are gonna get lower. But like this guy ain't losing to anybody not named Tom Aspinall or Cyril Gahn. And I would say that right now. I would say in his UFC debut, if they put him against Curtis Blades or somebody like that, he would beat Curtis Blades in his UFC debut. That's how good I think this guy is. Um, so yeah, just give me Gable Stevenson first round knockout. Next fight. I hate this fight. I love both of these guys. I love my boy Bobby Knuckles. Robert Whitaker versus Nikita Krylov. Um, these guys, it was weird when I checked the ages on this guy. Whitaker's actually older than Krylov. It just feels like I've been watching Nikita Krylov forever. And because what the fight that put me on the map for him was I used to live down in Alabama, and I used to know the owner of a boxing gym down there, and he used to train a guy named Walt Harris. And Walt Harris was making his UFC debut, and we were all pumped. I was like, dude, Walt Harris going to get in the UFC. I don't know who the hell this Ukrainian guy is, but he's going to get knocked out. He fought Nikita Krylov, and Nikita Krylov head kicked him in the first round. And that was up at the heavyweight division. People forget Nikita Krylov was a heavyweight at one point. Like, he's a big dude. He's going to be a lot bigger than Bobby Knuckles. And this is a fight where I love betting Robert Whitaker because he's got two of my favorite things. I just said I love wrestling as the base. If you don't have wrestling, the combo that you need to have is old school Chuck Liddell. You need to have very good striking and you need to have very good takedown defense. That's how Robert Whitaker made his career. It worked out very well for him. But in this fight here, I honestly don't know that I've bet against Nikita Krylov in a fight, and I'm not doing it here. Betting Nikita Krylov, um, one of the reasons, like, this is kind of a little biased play for me, but the guy's just won me a lot of money over his UFC career. And why I say that is I remember he was a underdog against Fabricio Werdum, and he smoked him. He was a underdog, like a 4 or 5 to 1 underdog against Alex Gustafsson, which was absolutely insane because I even think a prime Gustafsson would have lost to Nikita Krylov. I think Gustafsson was terribly overrated. He had that one great fight with John Jones, but like he's a terribly overrated fighter. And we made a lot of money on Nikita Krylov that night. But I'm picking Nikita Krylov to win a decision here. I think he can outstrike Bobby Knuckles. And I think he can, dude, he's a lot bigger. He hits very hard. Like, Krylov has a ground game as well if he wants to use it. I know he has good jujitsu, but he's also he's definitely got better wrestling than Robert Whitaker. So I think they're dead even on the feet with Whitaker having the more skill, but Krylov having the more power, which will. And I'm assuming he's got longer reach than Whitaker and everything like that. Yeah, I think Whitaker is going to have a little trouble getting inside, and I don't think he's going to want to have to deal with that power. Or if he does get inside a little bit, he might have to worry about Krylov grabbing a hold of him and taking him down. He might have to worry about that here. But and I was shocked. I was shocked to see that these odds are only minus 140 for Bobby Whitaker because I got to be honest, I thought the odds for this fight would be like minus 350 for Whitaker because nobody knows who the hell Nikita Krylov is. He's been in the UFC for forever, but the guy does not get a lot of respect wherever he goes. I mean, how the hell could he be, a 5 to 1 underdog against the ghost of Alex Gustafsson or Fabricio Werdum? And then only be like minus 25, 125 against Bobby Knuckles. Like it's crazy. But yeah, I'm going Krylov here. I'm gonna say a 2-1 decision, but I think it's competitive, but a clear decision. I think it's gonna be a boring fight as well. I think these are two like kind of technicians in there, and I think it's just gonna be boring. But the power of Krylov, and I think he's going to have a little bit more volume than Whitaker because I think Whitaker's going to have trouble finding his range. And I love both these guys. It's just, hey, I got to make a pick, but give me Krylov to upset Bobby Knuckles. Another fight of two guys I don't like betting against, King Green and uh, Terrence McKinney. This is just a simple fight of look. King Green's got a lot of skills. He can upset you out of nowhere. But King Green, to me, a perfect analogy that I'll use for him is Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland's a very skilled fighter as well, but man, their fight IQ is just not there. And with King, I think his chin's kind of not there either. And I'll also say this with Kevin Holland as well. Like, I don't think him or Bobby Green really give a shit if they win or lose. I think they care about putting on good performances and putting on a show for the crowd. And hey, there's a place for you in the UFC for that. I don't like fighters like that. King Green always scares me because he does get those upsets where he just shows up, he fights smart, and I'm like, man, when you fight like that, like you're a legit top 15 guy. Why the hell don't you do it enough? But he's just kind of become a guy that I'm just gonna start fading him. And McKinney's a guy I've been betting a lot recently, and I think McKinney's he's not nearly as skilled on the feet as far as like Bobby Green has, the eight limbs of striking and shit like that. Terrence McKinney's kind of he ain't like that. He's just kind of a straight up like boxer, but he uses it. He can get to the ground. He can sub you on the ground, and that's what I think's going to happen here. I think he's good enough on the feet. I don't think Bobby Green. What I would love to see Bobby Green do is fight like Michael Page. Fight on your back foot and run around the whole time, and then there's patter in and out, pattern in and out. You're a quick fighter. You have great karate style fighting. Like just do that to win fights. He doesn't like to do that, so I'm not counting on him doing that. And I think McKinney gets him out of there in the second round. I'm going to say second round submission for Tyrone McKinney. All right, let's go with Brandon Royval versus Loner Kavanaugh. This is another tough fight to pick because I love Brandon Royval. I love Brandon Royval. I've been betting him his entire career, and he's pulled off a lot of upsets for me. Let me down in a couple of fights here and there, but like he's got some stud wins on his career, and he's a very, very underrated fighter in my opinion. But I think he's been in the top five for like 7 or 8 years now. It feels like there's a lot of guys in that division. They just kind of hang around there, even they lose like one or two fights. You got like Pantoja, Moreno, Royval. Those have pretty much been the three guys. Now you got Van in there. You had Tatsiro Tara and fighters like that, but it's just not a very deep division. But Royval, man, he's got skills, and the problem here is like because when I saw this fight announced, I'm like, Royval's going to be probably a sizable underdog because of Kavanaugh's last performance. But um, I got to tell you, like, this is another one where I'm going with the dog here. I'm going with Royval. Loner Kavanaugh put on a great, great performance against Brandon Moreno in his last fight. I just think like the people are putting too much on that one fight. And Royval is getting older, but I think this is his last little run. I think he's going to make a last little run at a title fight. And I believe he trades up there at Colorado and Elevation. And a lot of people forget, like Vegas is at Elevation too. And it's just something that could become a factor. But this is also like a kind of a showcase fight for Kavanaugh because it's International Fight Week. He just put on a great performance against Moreno. So now I think everybody's like starting to jump on this bandwagon. And I just think this is a kind of a trap fight to put him in against. I don't think they had to put him in against a guy like Brandon Royval to get him a title shot for his next fight. And shit, kudos to fucking Kavanaugh for taking this fight. And he could have went, go the O'Malley route, fight a guy like fucking Chito Vera for Christ's sake to get a title fight. But yeah, I'm going with Royval here. It's just a feeling I got. I think Royval, even if Loner gets him on the ground, Royval's very active off his feet. Kavanaugh might be a little bit more powerful on the feet, but Royval's lanky, and he's another one. I think he uses his kicks probably better than Kavanaugh. I think he can keep it close enough on the feet and win a very, very close decision. I'm gonna say split decision, Brandon Royval in this fight. The only thing I worry about there though is like it seems like the UFC wants to push Kavanaugh. I don't like to, assume A side judging and stuff like that. Not in MMA, in boxing a lot. It works out a lot for me. But that would be the one thing I might worry about a little bit. UFC kind of wants this guy to win at all costs. There could be something going on there, but like just in a straight up fight, I think Royval can beat him. And then we got Corey Sandhagen versus Mario Batista. These guys have fought before, but it was 7, 8 years ago. And Corey Sanhagen won. And Corey Sanhagen, that was when Corey Sanhagen was. I remember as soon as he got in the UFC, they were calling him like one of the next big things. And he was one of those guys that like he started his career in or his training like when he was younger as an MMA fighter. We're creeping into this generation where it's not like I started as a wrestler, then I wanted to get an MMA, so I had to train wrestling, Muay Thai, all this stuff together. These guys are training all that stuff together at once. So it's not like I'm a wrestler. I need to figure out how my wrestling can work in UFC. Rory Sandhagen's been a guy who just like master of all trades kind of guy. And this is another, it's a tough fight to pick. It's a toss up fight. Batista has looked really good in his last like I think 5 or 6 fights or so. I think he's got a couple losses in there, but like the win against like Eldo and guys like that, like Batista, I think is a way different fighter than he was when he fought Sandhagen the first time. Sandhagen did look halfway decent against Umar in that fight, but this is one where I just see Batista being a better fighter. I think he's a better striker. Sandhagen's kind of tall and lanky. I think he could be open for a lot of punches in this fight. He's also like, this is the fight, and I don't like to bring this up too often, but Corey Sandhagen is a pale white guy, and Batista is a tanned, Brazilian guy or whatever the hell he is. But sorry, he's not from Brazil. He's from fucking America. But he's a tanned guy, like and Corey Sandhagen. This could be a very, very close fight. And this could be one of those fights where the judges look at damage, which I think is the by far the dumbest rule in sports as far as judging your sports is by damage. It, it's beyond stupid to judge a fight on damage. Do you know how many fights I've seen where they have like? Plus, the problem that I have with damage is a guy gets, you know, hit in the first round and he gets his eye busted open. Then he fights real good in the second and third round. In all the judges just fighting, keep going by damage. And they're like, oh, that guy, that eye, it's still bleeding and stuff. Yeah, it's still fucking bleeding, but he didn't get hit there this round. Like it's just, or up against the fence, the guy's fucking cornrows get into the guy's eyes, start scratching him up and marking him up under the eye when he didn't even land a fucking punch. But because you judge on damage, that's damage. And another guy can land a clear fucking punch and it doesn't do any damage to the other guy's face, and that counts for absolute shit. Get the fuck out of here. This could be a fight where it comes into play. Sandhagen, like I said, very pale white guy. And this could be a fight very close, but I think Bautista's a more powerful striker. And I think he'll also have the volume advantage in this fight. And I think Corey Sandhagen could be pieced up a little bit more in this fight. And I'm going to take Bautista to win this one. I believe it's a little bit of an upset, too. But let's go Bautista by decision. I don't think either guy is getting finished here. And then we're right into the co-main event and main event. We got Paddy Pimblett versus Benoit Saint Denis. Saint Denis had those few little hiccups where I don't know what the fuck happened in that Moicano fight. Like I can't stand Moicano as a fighter. Like he's a very entertaining guy and whatever. And he is as a fighter too, but like I just don't think he's that good. And he keeps screwing me when he keeps getting these fucking upsets. Like he did against Saint Denis. And he beat the shit out of Saint Denis in that fight. And then Saint Denis had the other fight, I believe it was with Poirier. Poirier was the one where he was beating the shit out of Poirier the whole fight. And then I believe that was the one where he gassed and got caught in the Dustin Poirier guillotine. But I think that's what happened in that fight. But I know he gassed out in that fight. But that was the fight where everybody was like, "Oh, he's got staph. He's got staph. He's got staph." So I kind of give him a little bit of a pass there. And plus, it's Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier ain't a bum. I mean, Dustin Poirier even then I was probably a better fighter than Paddy Pimblett. But Paddy Pimblett was a guy like I did not like him at first. I thought he was just very basic. I do not see guys like that they're hyping up. I don't like to see them get, cracked too much on the feet or losing or winning close fights against guys like Jared Gordon. Like it's just a bad look for me, but he looked really good against Justin Gaethje. I could give two shits about that dumb Chandler fight, which, I know the UFC does this, but you give this guy a fucking title shot after beating Bobby Green and, um, and what's it, and fucking Chandler. Like, give me a fucking break, dude. But he did show up against Gagey. He just lost a really tough fight to Justin Gagey, but he went 5 rounds with him. And he's tough as nails. He's very, very big for the division, and he's very good grappler. And he's very just strong. He could get people to the ground. It's just I think he lacks the stand up against a guy like Saint Denis. Think Saint Denis can. I don't think this fight goes to the ground either. As good as grapplers, I think they're both good grapplers. And Paddy might have an edge there in grappling because he's so big and so fucking strong. But his striking sucks. His striking sucks. He's a tough guy. He's long and lanky, which makes it. But I shouldn't say his striking sucks. His striking defense sucks, and I think it's going to come back to bite him in this fight. And I worry about Benoit Saint Denis' gas tank, but this is not. Yeah, it's not a 5 round fight. If it was, I would take Patty. It's a 3 round fight. I think Saint Denis knocks him out in the second round. Um, Maybe even the first. I think Saint Denis knocks this guy out. Yeah, Patty's tough or whatever, but like Saint Denis, he's just got so many wins against top level guys. Like some people, I heard some guy the other day like shitting on his resume, be like, "Oh, Dan Hooker, all these guys," and I'm like, Dan Hooker's better than fucking Paddy Pimblett. Like, what are you talking? Or not better than Paddy Pimblett. He's better than anybody that Paddy Pimblett has beat. So like I don't understand that, but yeah, just I think Benoit Saint Denis, he's kind of he's come back from those 2 losses that he had. He's looking good. He's big, strong dude too, and I think he's just way more skilled on the feet. And if he knocks Patty out, I think that fighting style of Patty. You need to become like a wrestling specialist or something like that because like your striking's not that good. And I think Benoit Saint Denis gets a win here. And these odds are very close, and I'm pretty confident on Saint Denis, but like I ain't throwing a lot of money on any of these fights. So let's go to the main event here. We got Conor McGregor versus, they do have Conor's name first. Conor McGregor versus Max Holloway. Why the fuck you put Conor McGregor's name first when he hasn't beat anybody of since Eddie Alvarez 10 fucking years ago? The guy hasn't had a fucking win since then. And, he still gets, first billing or whatever because he's Conor McGregor. And I'm just going to say right now, like, I, the odds for this fight are absolutely fucking absurd. They're absurd. Max Holloway is only a minus 220 against Conor McGregor. It makes no fucking sense. The only thing that I can think of that they are thinking is that, oh, Connor's, he's going to be 170 pounds and he is going to be a big 170 pounds. And he will probably walk in somewhere around 190 pounds for this fight. Max Holloway usually fights at 145, had a couple of fights at 155, and looked like shit in his last fight against Charles Oliveira. But Charles Oliveira fights nothing like Conor McGregor. So, like, I don't take anything away from that. Plus, Charles Oliveira is a very active fighter. And in my opinion, in his whole career, he's a better fighter than Conor McGregor. So I just like I don't know what anybody's seeing here. Like I'm assuming all the money's coming in because this is the thing. Like I bet Max Holloway months ago, like when the fight first got announced, I hopped on Max Holloway at minus 600, minus 500, minus 450, minus 400. And now I just keep firing bets on him at minus 220 until his odds By fight day, I think they'll go back up a little bit, and Max Holloway will be right around like 275 or something like that. But you got to understand that, like, when Vegas puts these lines out, they know the casuals are going to be throwing money on Conor McGregor. Like, hey, man, we got a 25-minute fight. I got 25 minutes to catch this guy with a clean punch. Tank Davis always says this guy's got to be perfect for 36 minutes. I got to be perfect for 3 seconds. That's the mentality for Conor McGregor. And it's his path to victory. He's not winning a decision in this fight. He's only chances by a knockout because, yeah, he is a lot bigger and the counters are going to be there. Like Conor McGregor is a counter puncher and he's one of the best ever at it. That was Conor McGregor at 145, not at 170, not coming off a 5-year layoff, not coming off a broken leg. And the 5-year layoff isn't just any other normal layoff. Like the guy's going out doing coke and banging strippers and stuff like that. Allegedly, I don't know if I could say that word on here, but like, like the guy has not been living a clean lifestyle in the last 5 years. He talks a lot of shit. He's saying all the same things. I read something today. Conor McGregor's been sleeping in the gym. He's so dedicated. This is the best camp he's ever had. I've heard that hundreds of times from this same exact position. Look, man, this is the best training camp I ever had in my life. I'm gonna be way better. I'm way more experienced. I had the rest did good for me. He's gonna say all the right things. It's gonna get proven wrong in the ring. I just think Holloway does whatever the fuck he wants in this fight with McGregor. He will piece him up all night. He's gonna be piecing McGregor up. McGregor does have good leg kicks though, and Max is kind of heavy on his lead foot, and Max is kind of have to, fight to get in range. But Max is such a smarter fighter now than he was in that first fight. Max is very smart and he's very good with his hands. He is, I believe, a lot better of a straight up striker than Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is just a way better counter puncher. And hey, like if you like Conor McGregor in this fight, that's your path to victory. Yeah, Max is going to have to come in here. He's going to get comfortable pot shotting him. Conor's going to read that timing on those little pot shots and be like, I'll take one of those pot shots to throw this backhand and knock you the fuck out. Or I'll pick apart your lead leg while you're trying to come and hit me with pot shots, and I'll take my leg kick against your little pot shot. Those are that's like if you could say that Conor's going to win this fight, I could see that, but let's also not forget about Conor's shit gas tank that he has. Like I just think he's going to get I think he's going to get knocked out and I think it's going to be really bad. I think he's going to get unless he decides to quit again. But I think he's going to get really hurt really bad on the feet and I think it's going to get to a point where not that he's going to get the shit kicked out of him and like his face is going to be all damaged up and whatever, but he's going to be pot shotted. And then he's going to think like, oh man, I could just turn this thing back on. And when you try to do that, you're already going to be gassed out because he never had a good gas tank to begin with. And, I'll say it straight up steroid abuse that he's been doing for the last 5 years. Um, that's not good for your gas tank either. All those muscles, those are not good to walk in there at. Like, he's going to be 170, but like with all that muscle that he had to put on, it is not easy to take off muscle. Muscle doesn't come off that quick. So he's still going to be probably shredded down to the fucking gills. And, but he's still going to be left with a lot of muscle. And I think it's going to be a tough weight cut for him. I don't think he's going to have the gas tank. And I think Holloway's going to let's go with a late second round knockout for Holloway, but I think it's going to be a complete dominant performance. McGregor's probably going to have a few parts where he like throws that backhand counter and it kind of lands and the crowd will go fucking nuts. But then Holloway, he'll get back on the jab and just move around and stuff like that and just pot shot him all night. And I just think McGregor's going to be tired. I don't think he can take 2.5 rounds of fighting on the feet. I think he's going to be done. His gas tank is going to be on E when he gets off his stool in the first round. And then he's going to be fighting on heart from there. And to be honest, I don't think he's got a lot of that either. So I just think he gets knocked out. And hopefully it shuts this dude up. And then we only got to see one circus fight from him because I think he's still got a fight left on his UFC contract. So hopefully he can come over into boxing and get destroyed over there. It's like he did last time with that pathetic performance. But yeah, give me Holloway, second round knockout. But look, great night of fight, guys. And I just hope everybody enjoys these fights. Like I said, don't take my gambling advice too serious. But if you hear things that kind of make sense, they're kind of in your way of thinking, or if you were 50-50, take my advice and then go watch a bunch of UFC guy pages that know, a little more than me. But I can tell you right now, like I do very well betting UFC. I may not know a lot of the ins and outs and stuff like that, but I do very well betting UFC and boxing every single weekend. So you guys have a good night and yeah, enjoy the fights on Saturday night. Go Holloway.